So I would have to do that. I haven't prepared anything you would usually prepare before, but I brought some orange tape. What? It's not like glue. That's because I don't have much of any of them. So oops. Now I would have to turn this on and then be able to see myself. Now. Amazing. Now, I did forget to put on music in the background, and it is connecting. And yeah, amazing. Now I would have to die of a cough, and I would have to turn some music on for the pleasure of myself. If the TV wants to turn itself on. Oh, it did. What a shock. I didn't believe that was going to happen. That usually never happens. I'm finding YouTube, and the first oldies stream I can put my hands on. Now it's going to be loud. So I'd have to wait for it to actually start before turning the volume down so it doesn't freak out. Amazing. Now, I need to get a paper from under you. Oops, I'm sorry. You know how well I've planned all of this? You know, preparation is a really important step in the process. It is quite important, and you should do it to your best capability. Now, we're going to use this orange tape because I think it doesn't, because it's the, because I have it, essentially. And I'm doing as I'm doing with all of it, and I'm figuring it. It's actually more see-through, so it's easier finding. Hopefully I will have crisper equal thickness on the lines. Now, maybe I should turn it to the side. I feel like we've done a lot of like landscape sort of views, so fuck. Maybe we should switch things up by making it in this direction. What? How innovating, how professional, how cool. Wow, I never would have guessed that I was able and capable of doing such things. Yeah. Oops. I don't like tape. If you I like stickers, but I don't necessarily like tape. Although I'm very good at applying the tape. Yeah, I mean, I need to put it here. Now, what sort of scenery should I paint on this thingy? So, I would have to untangle fucking tape. You know, since, I was going to say that since I am poor, I can't afford, like, not using the tape, but then it wouldn't want itself to work in my favor either fucking way. And I am complexed and sad and how do you say? Sort of pissed. Amazing. And now we just find it to be placed precisely ish here. Amazing. Now I'll zoom in for you guys so you can actually see what I am currently doing and so on so forth. Now I need to switch this out, of course. Amazing. Fan fucking tastic. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Are you enjoying your existence? I sure am. Now, I would have to paint the whole thing white, but I think I will want to put in some raw sienna in it so I have the color base as well. Gonna plump a tiny bit on it, almost using up all the paint, but I want a sort of subtle smooth look, so I have this brush and it's sort of smooth and everything. I will completely fill it with water until the bubbles have stopped emerging, which they have, and then I will mix everything together forever in perfect harmony, in hatred and in love, in capitalism and in communism. These colors will forever be united. Amazing. It's sort of a, you know, before before the makeup industry diversified its colors, it was sort of bland, pale-ish pigment, and this really looked like that, like a really bad color matched foundation. But I do believe this tape is a bit better at not bleeding its colors through, and I'm doing it this way because it's shorter. I mean, yeah. So I can do it as I would paint a wall and have some of it a bit. You know how you paint walls? You sort of do this all over the thing you already painted, and then you take some more, and then you start a bit outside, and then you work your way into the thingy, you know, trying to always have the like length way, and then you do the same thing, and when you've come a bit further, which I, you know, obviously have now while being done doing that, I then go over the whole thing, at least until what I haven't done this, to sort of blend all the colors together and also take away a bit because it's maybe a bit too much. Now, I am uncertain of my desire to paint the whole canvas this color. I feel sort of portrayed and complexed that I should do that, but I will just take and paint a bit more of this. And I will have to keep it steady. And I'd have to continue doing this all the way up to the top. Just to have a thick, nice, and smooth, and somewhat even layer on the first ding dong, you know? I like the one subtle stripe, but that does mean that this tape is also stronger, more masculine. It probably did the I forgot the football player's name, but Drew Gooden made a video about it, so I mean, if you know what I'm talking about. Now, you can really see the dent in it. That's nice. It will probably ruin whatever I'm trying to paint by making me not really see the perspective quite right, but I need to figure out what I want to actually paint. But I can think about that while I tell the void that I am currently live. I don't know how to write quite, but I think I managed it. I am now quite live currently on the interweb. Not plural, just interweb, not interwebs. Amazing. Now, something. So, maybe I have done a lot of like nature and a lot of realism. I'm sort of having a streak on that. But as I've established last time, I am not very good at actually painting houses that have a sort of realistic foundation. You know, if this door is this tall, and you know, it could fit a human being quite well, but like, you wouldn't have that big of a mirror, and I mean, in that case, the tables and chairs also make sense, but you know, it's, you could fit a whole person in the fucking windows, at least on that side, but maybe I can try to make just apartment building windows to sort of try to make the like lines correlate. I don't know how much of a window is a part of the wall. So that will probably be a bit wrong, but nonetheless, I think I should be able to take a pencil, probably this one because it's really thin, and I can go in with a light color, perhaps, probably. I'm going to go for a brown color, but I want it to be a bit light and I want it to have some sort of color pop. So I'm putting some red in it, and I'm gonna just be mixing them together and using that as a sketch color. Well, it didn't turn out very light, I'd say that, but it has a nice color to it. It's sort of wooden. I mean, you can't really see that, but here, now you can see it a bit better. It's a nice color. Yeah, sort of red, sort of brown. Maybe if I fit 2 windows, having it like square shaped, I could probably really nicely just pinpoint like the middle of this, having it, if it goes there, it should go there, and if it goes there, then it should go ish there, but probably a bit more like here. I can just make a line and then doing the same thing. So about here. Yeah, that looks correct. So maybe here and then to there, and putting that as half, and then we have our point right here. And then doing the same thing. So what I just did, it's a smart technique, because I take my fingers to exactly ish how much I know it's going to be, and I wasn't quite correct, so I had like a lot left, and then I just put half that over to find the more middle, you know? Because that makes sense. Now I would have to make this line all the way in the middle, and then I find out they're not on the equal length, which is fine. Then I at least have some sort of idea as to where that is ish. I think I I didn't do it straight, that's for sure, but I can continue the first line and then pretend. Yeah, I'll pretend that this is exactly what I was going for, but at least we have like, it can be like the part in between of the floors, I realize, and then hopefully this is correct. Because I don't want to do this again. Oh my gosh. Oh my days. That was surprisingly straight. So I managed the short side and not the long side, but that's okay. No, I managed the long line, not the short one. But anyway, windows, you know. Maybe I can have terraces. Um, so I'm a bit perplexed because are we seeing the entire frame of the like houses? Like, is this precisely one floor or does it go a bit above that as well? Because then I would have to take that into consideration. But if I pretend that the floor sort of ends where the paper is, sort of right here, I can use that into my guesstimations. Uh, you know, guessing. I think a window is not half the floor. It's some part in like a quarter, perhaps. So if this is half, it would probably be like 2 here and 2-ish here, because that seems to be a bit much, but I can sort of shorten that and make a window quite frankly right here, and then I can make a terrace on the other side and have like a door here and then a window following that on this side, because this would be like a different room. I think that would be a nice idea, and I can do the opposite on the one on top. That sounds like a great idea. So if the floor ends here, I would have to paint the window right up there. If the floor ends here, it would be quite just the right amount, and it would be all the way of that length ish, and it would go all the way over to like about here, and then I can draw a line in between all these. It doesn't quite look the same, but anyway, I was going to do the opposite up here, meaning that this would have to be a door. Don't know how to do that, but it'll just be an extension of the window somehow. Now, precisely the thoughts I'm thinking. Maybe I'm thinking, at least for like this one, I should always use the same for reference, just so it will be based off the same thing. that looks at least better than what I was doing on the other painting. But if it goes about here ish, and then it goes about, I'm sorry for covering this up for you, then it goes about to down here, and also goes down, and then it meets up there. That one isn't that pretty, just so you know. Amazing. Now I would have to make this into a door and that into a door, which is okay because these two aren't the prettiest one as just a window as opposed to those two. So I will assume that there's like this as a like border of the wall, and then it comes to a new floor at that point to have the referencing and spacing that I need, because I want to make a terrace sort of extending to both of them but only being in the opposite, you know? So we get the sense that although it is in the same building, they're sort of switching up where the like entrance point is, maybe for some reason, but uncertain why. Maybe if you that one has the door open, and I don't actually know the reasoning for that. It would be the reason of an architect, and I'm not an architect, but if like the floor border for like the for the floors, like there's a big chunk of construction in between the floors, and if that is here, we would like have a bit more to where the floor of the actual house is, and that will be sort of like about here as well, so I know where to like end the door and start on the thingy, because then the terrace is on the like middle point, which does make sense, I hope. So I would have to extend this all the way down to here, and then we don't see the like end terrace thing here, making it sort of pleasing to the eye in a sort of way. Yeah, I don't know about perspectives and how to make this a three-dimensional thing, at least the terraces, but nonetheless this will be a terrace, and it will go like here, and then it will go a bit down and then be a terrace right here on this point. And I want the terrace to sort of end in frame and also start in frame, so the terrace would have to be about here and then about here. Thank you, myself, as I've said countless times now. Because when you walk out of a door, you're usually stepping down, regardless of what you are stepping out from. It's always a sort of part down, if that makes sense. And then we can have like sort of weird things that make sense for it to be at that point. and we'll emphasize a bit more on the door there. And then I think housing, since it is like towards us quite vaguely, we will have it a bit further on from the border I magically created. And luckily we'll only do this once because this is the only one that is in frame, and then we'll slightly follow the upper line, I think, so we can have it's a bit pushed up, but our perspective is like on this line. We can't see the surface of like neither of top or bottom of the terrace, making this a bit more visible from the I don't know how to do that, but I'll figure it out how to make the terrace at that point. But I like the sort of small thing, like a sort of middle point until where another window comes ahoy. So I will make that here as well and extend it. So you're like in the living room, but you won't see the people on the terrace while in the living room, because the architect's a bitch and would rather have it on like your bedroom, you know? Which doesn't quite make sense, to be honest. That's it seems kind of dumb, but I mean it's a great hiding spot. But yeah, I was doing this. I don't know, probably fill it in just to use some colors. Now I a bit perplexed, but it happens. I don't know what kind of like wall boards or like what kind of texture the walls have, but nonetheless I think if the window goes to about there, the railing should also move. It should be a bit further up because it's closer to us, so maybe until here, and then we'll have the railing come through in the middle part of this all the way to this side, and then it will be the closest railing, and then I'd have to figure perspectively out in my mind like a Jedi. It's crooked. Fuck. So it'll go a bit more up there, and then it'll zoom itself to there precisely. Amazing. And then it'll probably connect itself right under the window, just to have a point of referencing. And if it goes there, it should probably go to about the door. Amazing. amazing. It's a small terrace. It happens. Now that makes sense. At least for me. I don't know how much sense it makes for you, but nonetheless, it will make sense in like 8 minutes. So that means I would have to I'd have to pull it out from the window thingy a bit, and then I'll have to start the railing on the edge of this, which sort of makes sense and sort of doesn't make sense. I don't know how much dimensional sense this makes, but if it goes a bit down from that, it will, the closest one would go ish there, and then it would go like here, but that is off. Fuck. But I think that makes a bit more sense to have it on the line further down now. Mainly this is so I can practice making shapes, because I'm really good at nature, and you know, people say, oh, you can't, at least on TikTok, you can't paint people forever, you'd have to paint like buildings and nature and scenes as well someday. And I'm on the opposite side, where I usually don't paint people. You know, weird flex, but nonetheless. So these are two different people, and we should have sort of opposite vibes for them. Maybe. Maybe perhaps this one down here is very planty, to sort of make it as a foreground, and then this one on top is very classy, you know. The further down can be metaphorically more down to earth with the plants, making it sort of seem like a foreground, like nature wise. And then this could be a bit more stylized as the simplicity of the sky, and that would sort of work to have an opposite vibe, but they sort of match in the sense of if that was a horizon line. Perfect. Now, I think I shouldn't make I should make it a brick house sort of thing. I should make it a color, but I don't know what color, of course. Maybe if I make it a gray looking color, everything like the door frames, the like terrace and everything personalized in here would be emphasized, rather than like toned down by the not contrasting actual foreground and actual objects in the painting. So, and that will sort of more create the illusion that I was thinking about in my mind, which I think I mentioned, but I don't know how to say it in other words with that sort of description. And then this part can probably be like wood. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, color for the background. I think I'd have to possibly go out for a cigarette so I can like melt all my ideas together, and so it would be sort of easier to express the things I want to talk and say in the painting, if that makes sense to you, like metaphorically blasting. Now, I haven't done my eyeliner again, at least like renewed it or washed it off before I went to bed. But if you don't change your makeup, it will at least hold one day. That's the maximum amount of time I give. You guys didn't want to stand up straight. If I do like that, possibly, but that looks weird. So like this, amazing. It's an odd sort of tilted, but I think if I somehow, magically just poof 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 and creation comes out, I can maybe sort of have a differentiating wall, in that sense that I can make like squared panels sort of in between the top middle part of the window, top middle part of the door, right? And then somewhat in the middle of that again to make one big square. Like they just put plates on because they wanted to finish the building faster. And at least one building I've seen in Oslo has these sort of panels that they've just popped on, and then they have like all these things inside the wall, making it easier to like fix things in like things that makes a house complex building, making it easier to do renovations, switch the cords and all of that. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. You understand the things I'm trying to describe it, because you understand it psychologically, and I think it would be better than painting a bunch of bricks, because honestly, I'm not good at that. I'm thinking that I want to really expand my painting knowledge and the way, technically speaking, how you paint stuff and it looks realistic. So I'm thinking maybe to do that, like practice making bricks at some point. Just I need a picture for reference as well, and such things to like practice. Yeah, it makes a master. Because y'all haven't heard that, haven't you? I don't know how much like plants and how much things to put on the terraces, but I want it to be a bit much, like for a terrace that is only a railing and no like sort of glass protection. I don't believe you would put a lot of things just out in the open, but I am thinking that making a lot of it will sort of make it come to life a bit more. I'm thinking to have, at least on the upper terrace, to have a sort of table and a sort of sitting area with like sheepskin wool type of thing to make like clouds, you know, to sort of give the illusion that there's greenery and a sky on these two terraces. I think that would come out really, really professional and inspiring, at least for a bit more practice. As a bit more of a practice piece, it will be a bit more creative in that sort of sense. You know, I don't just want to make a brick wall. That seems boring. I've tried painting a brick wall. It didn't work. Shocker. And it was sort of weird. But it happens. And I need to be able to make plants as well. The like pot plant on the painting I did 2 days ago made a lot of sense. But it was sort of bland and dead, right? And I will take you by the throat and move you inside. So, and I'll have to fix the front leg. And here we are, back again, back at it, and I'll not allow you to exist in my space. Oh, I got a follower. What? It looks like a name I recognize from Snapchat. Thank you. And Nicist says, yo, hi, hello, thank you for joining. Thank you for appreciating my existence. I am painting houses. Or specifically, I'm trying to not make this mistake again because there's no space to make this building make sense. So I want to avoid that in the future. And you know, also on this one, it doesn't make sense. Looks like you are doing a good job. Thank you. I have sketched up most of the I have sketched up the door and a door, a window, and then somehow perspective wise a terrace. This one comes closer to us, but if this is our point of view, we won't see the floor of this terrace, and since this one's a bit down, we will see like it coming from the right? Makes sense. Amazing. I was thinking a sort of grayish color for like panels, and then have some sort of indication that they are panels in that sense. And I'm thinking of having a light gray, but I wanted to have a sort of hint of color of blue because that would make more sense, because on this side we're going to create a personality that is more of the sky and the clouds, and like simplistically sort of gray, some sheepskin on a bench perhaps, and a table, you know, a bit more up in the clouds, and here we'll just pop in a bunch of plants, and I do believe it will look really, really, really amazing. Now, you're a bit crooked still, sort of. Now, a blue color. Now, this is the best blue color to like just have it dash of, but I am a bit perplexed. Maybe I can make it sort of purple, like a hint of purple, and I can have a bit of red in there as well. Oops, to make it sort of subtle, you know. We're not necessarily looking at a sky, we are looking at a building, right? But I want to make that gap a bit distinct and a bit unseen in those senses. Now I put in way too much red for it to look purple, but it has a nice tone to it. I would have to put in some more blue and probably some more white as well. I can take the rest of this one just so I can throw it away, or at least not use it ever again. But I'm really bad at throwing away empty painting tubes, but that's just me. Now it sort of has a grayish tone to it, but also like blue, and I think it's a bit too blue actually, but oops, meaning I'd have to have some more white. Are you an artist or is this just a hobby? I am halfway through a real professional painter's education, meaning that I would be able to paint like indoor houses and such, but this is thus only a hobby. I am I really want to do restorational work, and that does require a lot of sense of colors and a lot of being able to paint art on like walls and such things, because not that I'm allowed to speak that much of it. I worked in the castle, the Norwegian one, of course, and they have all this like wall paintings, and they sort of look like concrete ornaments like stuck and such, but they're just paint, which is ridiculous, but it is the things I want to be able to do. So I think that window looks a bit small, but it is, so I'd have to make sure I don't do that mistake again. But oops, I was thinking that in the middle of this door we will have a like this sort of plate all the way across here, and then probably all the way to at least down here. Oops. And then we'll just bring that down here as well, and it's sort of mixed with the sketching color, which is fine because I think either way I would have to paint this over again, or maybe it's just me not being able to mix my colors properly. That could also be it. And then it'll have to make sense as to this point as well, and we'll have it sort of down here, if that's where the window is going to be. It will make sense. And yeah, precisely, that's one like panel. and then I'd have to make the other ones. But I do like the sort of grayish tone to this. I mean, it is in all actuality somewhat purple, but I haven't mixed in the red quite well, so I have to like remove that from my pencil so it doesn't like just stick in when I'm not noticing it, at least not as much as it has done at this occasion. And then I am leaving a bit space for like the small shadow, and I'll probably paint that over when it's a bit more dry to sort of have this shallow emphasis on it being plates, right? It makes sense. Maybe I'll make some small screw holes, or maybe they're like inside of the crack so we can't quite actually see them. That's also a possibility. Now I think I can paint sort of over the sketch lines, but I'm not that sure, so I will pretend to still keep the like length emphasized on some sort of way magically, and mainly so I still know where things go. And then I mean if it sort of ends up here, it would be all the way down there, which isn't quite ideal, but we can have some smaller plates. I don't think it would matter that much. Now on this side as well, and we won't see the rest of that plate because there's a window there, so maybe that can somehow save us. But I mean me, not that you're doing anything in particular to help me, but we'll keep these, and it will just be uneven down here. I mean, architects, am I right? They can't do anything. All they do is watch TikTok and twerk, and they can't even cook. We'll pretend. That makes sense. Precisely. Now, more squares. Amazing. I'm thinking maybe, perhaps, if the squares, of course, come in the like one square, right? And then another square here, and that makes the next square in the middle of it, making it look like, making it have the structural foundation as bricks. That makes sense. We'll do that. So the middle of this would probably be right here. Amazing. And then we'll just stick it all the way to the ground of this terrace, and we'll make sure that it looks pretty. That's the most important part. And in between the nooks and crannies, and trying to keep the space between them a bit realistic in that sense, like the same type of things, you know? That makes sense. the same spacing. That's correct. That's the word, precisely. And then it would go all the way down to about here. But we won't quite see that. But it's okay. It happens. I didn't really plan for this, but we can maybe. I don't quite know, but if I just pretend that what I'm doing makes sense, at some point it will, you know? Uh, at some point, it will all make sense, it'll all be clear, and so on and so forth. And probably keep a bit of space here, so maybe it's just another thingy as well. But that doesn't quite make sense and it doesn't quite translate, so probably not at the same time, you know? So, and then another thingy here, but it will. Yeah, of course. It doesn't really translate well to the underfloor, so I'll have to do like the same thing for the underfloor, only pretend that it makes sense, and probably people won't see that as a like constructional flaw. I mean, it is just a painting, but I want them to look as realistically and plausible as possible as I possibly can, if that makes sense. So that one, this panel goes all the way down to here. We'll have a panel that goes from here and then all the way down to it will go all the way down to about here actually, which is amazing, and then it'll just stop underneath the window. Like so. And that makes sense. And then the rest of them can make as little sense as possible, because all of a sudden at some point we will cover them, at least on in front of here and such, with objects of these personalities, right? And I'm trying to make room for a railing. I don't know how thick it should be, but it's probably good enough. And then I'll have to translate it up to here as well, amazingly, like a professional. And then we'll have this one from here and all the way out here. And then we'll probably make a sort of space for panel here, and then we'll remember that there should be a space for it here as well, just so we can pretend that this was planned to a better degree. And we'll have to do it in between the door and what would be a railing, amazingly. and then we would have to have it ish here. Yeah. And then underneath the window. And all the way down here. Like so. And all the way in between these. I am a bit confused about how I will make that railing. I think it should go a bit further out for some reason, which wouldn't quite make sense, but I feel like it should be a bit lower than what I have estimated it would be, but that's okay. That's a problem for future me in like an hour or so. Now, the this thing, it will probably go all the way up to here as the next one, as the next squared panel. It will probably translate all the way down ish there. Amazingly professionally made as always. Now since there's a gap right here, I would have to I'd have to make this squared right here ish sort of in a tiny way since possible, and I'd have to tighten the gap between things because I want like in betweens of them to be a bit subtle. Oops. Fuck. Right. Precisely. And then this side I would have to maybe just pretend that it doesn't have anything in the way. Like, we'll just make it like this. And then not caring about how the railings work, really. But yeah, amazing. That makes sense now. I think I should possibly go for a darker color in the window, plural, in the windows of like the doors and the actual physical windows. I think that it actually looks great currently. The reason I want it to be a bit darker is because there's like, we can sort of see through it, but we can't see it that far through the windows, right? Making like what is directly in the like window a bit more prevalent and a bit more visible. So I'm thinking we should have some blue, some primary blue that is, and perhaps blue and yellow makes green, so maybe some red, because purple is a subtle black. I learned by looking at a church painting, because instead of like black as like the doomsday part of that mural roof himling mural, and like the roof from the inside, whatever that's in American English or British English, but it had a doomsday some sort of portrayal with a man standing in like buildings being caught on fire and such, and instead of a sun it was a black it was just a lighter circle, and inside it was purple, and on the sky with like the clouds and such it was also very purple. So I'm thinking I'm thinking that makes sense. In all sort of ways. I'm thinking maybe it is a bit dark, but I think that it's okay. It happens, and I'll not go all the way to the borders because I need to remember that I need to paint the borders like sort of separatively to make actual three-dimensional spaces. You know, a wall isn't just flat, it has subtle small textures. And I think I should have some water in the paint because it isn't as smooth as I have come to like my paint. A bit more watercolor-ish, but it does a better job on like dividing itself and not seem lumpy when I paint it out and across. And who would have guessed it? I found the small little neat trick on TikTok, as all real men do. And since this will be a window, I will plop in this purple right here. And I'll try not to make that much indication of where my strokes have been, so it'd be easier painting over it seamlessly. Pretending the layers of paint has never occurred at all. And that is a neat trick I'm still trying to master. At least for the window up there, I want to like have a striped sort of blinder to have some spicy clouds portrayed, and I would sort of want it to be very light colors here, and I want more differentiating of colors as well down here, you know. It can be read as very showcasing different personalities and aesthetics, but still living at the same sort of premises, if that makes sense. Like showing individual and unique personalities all the way. Now, the door as well. I do believe I want a sort of curtain in the both of the doors, but I at least on the downside on this this one I'm currently painting on, I want it to be like small jewels, sort of like a curtain, but only like long stripes of pearls, and so that kind of thing, you know, plants being in with like nature. It's such a hippie sort of thing to have, so I really want that down here. And I have to least until here. Yeah, and I have to eradicate that line, I think. Because doors usually have just a tiny amount more of glass. I'm looking at my door, my doors for perspective. Right, and I'll figure the railings out at some point. And this down, this corner of a window right here, we don't have to do anything about those corners. We can just leave them to be precisely just a dark spot. Precisely. And then we'll do this one right here. And I probably just need a bit more water in this purple so it doesn't lump itself. I'm painting with paint that is like currently lumping itself. Like if you paint some and then paint over it again, it will sort of drag the color that is already placed down as well, and making it like unnecessarily shallow. And I do not want that. I absolutely hate it. It is the most annoying thing I think I have come across while using acrylics, is that it tends to do that if it isn't like completely and utterly like dried itself, right? That makes sense. And I'll just extend it a bit to have it be a bit bigger as of a window on the door, which makes sense perfectly. Now I would have to make the rest of the door. Yeah. And I think maybe I should have just a tiny amount of black to make this and these doors a different color, a different material in those senses. And I want to have this paint all around the windows and on the downside of here. And then I'll have to make some sort of metallic to go right underneath there, and I have to know where to put that's a lot of black. Oops. You know, colors and making sense of the colors as well as using the colors. Now I'll take a small chunk of all this bright blue, and a small chunk, I mean almost all of it. Currently taking everything is a great example of thinking slower than what you're doing in those senses. And I don't want there to be a lot of black. I don't want to like darken the color out, so I'm taking it drop at a time, which at some point will seem redundant and annoying, and quite frankly I want to take more color than just a drop, but it's not a good idea to take more than a drop, but I should maybe a bit more than a drop. And I'll see if it makes a difference, and it doesn't. So I'll have a bit bigger scoop and I'll probably regret it. Yeah, kind of. Not really. Ooh, amazing. Perfect. That is a different shade. It looks a lot more gray, which I am grateful for now. If I can actually clean this pencil, I'd be grateful. Because I'm not going to use this. Not quite anymore. And it looks clean enough. I don't think it will like harden and be unusable. Now, the thing I was doing, I should probably have this slim and pointy brush. Amazing. I will paint it all the way around the windows. I have to dip it in a lot more paint so it'd be easier to make them. Now, there is a subtle difference, and I like the subtle difference. Like, I can tell that there is a different color, which makes it really handy. Now, what I'll be doing, what I am currently doing is sketching, painting out like the main points of at least this background, and then I'll have to paint all over that again with like somewhat of the same-ish color, and just to completely know what I am doing. I need to also paint the railings on this go, but I am a bit perplexed as to where they are actually sitting. So at this point I have somewhat eradicated them and removed them from my existence. Which is fine. I mean, it does happen. I mean, it literally just did. Yeah. Because when I have, sketched out all of this and then painted it over again, so it's not like shining through. When it has completely dried out, I can paint over it with an estimation of the same colors that I used, but I probably have a better way of like differentiating between them. I'd probably take a lighter purple for the things, for the windows, that is. And I don't know how to make a window look realistic. Maybe I'll have to look at some pictures, which I usually don't do. But that's okay, it happens. At some point I would need to look at a picture. I wouldn't search up, oh, how do I paint a realistic window, because then it won't. Most likely, when I have searched up things, I don't really get what I want to know in this like kind of specific way I want to know it. So it has perplexed me and confused me and sort of annoyed me at a lot of different points throughout history, at least my history. So looking at the closest thing as to what I want to portray, or like what I want to do, and then replicating it in with the differentiating as to how I actually want it to look. And it has worked out a lot better than trying to do what they're telling me to do, and it does not make any sense usually. So I'd rather just not. And I need to have the same shape, I mean the same thickness of all these windows. At least the actual windows, I would have to sort of make it slimmer, at least here, and a bit thicker here, because there's like one frame that should go all the way down here as well, but I'd have to make a slightly different color to make that make sense, right? I'm probably adding a tad bit more of black to make that differentiating, and I'll probably have that color in between here as well, just to fill that out and making it a differentiating color. That's enough black. Probably I'll just eradicate this whole shade that I made kind of nicely and make it obviously grayer in that sense. And amazingly now filling in these holes right here. And I'll probably stop by the window because that's the point that is necessary, you know. This big space, you wouldn't like cut those big plates into like those small ones. I mean, they are sort of smaller down here, but it's okay. And what I have kind of come to like is that there are less like brick shapes on top and a bit more down here, also emphasizing where it will be more noise and more things to look at, right? It makes sense. And it sort of makes it makes the groundwork for the harmony I want to make in the painting. And I do like that where the whole terrace is only here, but like the terrace starts here, so I won't have to do the terrace construction twice. I'd only have to do it once, and then I have to make it make sense here and also at the top. And I think perhaps possibly I should make this, I don't want it to go too far up, and then how far up that goes, like from the downside here, if it goes up to here, it would make sense that it goes up to here, but I feel like it should be a bit more space here than in between here for some reason. Skate Guru, is this a new painting from last time? No, this is a new painting that I have grounded in a like ugly tan color, and the last painting I did was 2 days ago, and I did this, and you see how there's no room for like actual spacing in the house, so I am working on a building complex wall, and I'm sort of trying to fill in the whole thing with it's just a wall with terraces, obviously, and so I can make more realistic looking buildings because I didn't have room for anything on this painting. You see, there's no floor really. There's no roof as well. These windows there, if this store is how big a person is, and it goes sort of in between my fingers, there would be enough room for that person to like walk around here, but it would probably not have enough railing and probably just jump out of the balcony. And it does make sense, the size of the chairs and the size of like the bench, but it's still the same way, it's still the same length as the windows, which is a problem. Oh shit, that turned out beautiful. I know it does turn out beautiful. It did turn out beautiful. I really liked the subtle and cute harmony, and the details inside the window is also really beautiful because there's sort of a hint at like frames and doors and things, but and then like this railing, you can't really see it because now it's in between two glasses, and I think I did that quite geniusly, but the buildings don't make sense, and I do want them to make sense, so it is beautiful, it's just wrong. So I am trying to make this make perfect much sense as possible. Now, probably I should have filled before painting the color more black. I should have dragged that line all the way down, but it is something I can fix when I'm painting over it again next time. Hopefully I'll only paint over the things twice, you know, so it'll make more sense. Now, I chose too small of a brush to fill in big spaces, but that's okay, it happens. Right. Precisely. And then on this side as well. And then I'd have to use some sort of black to emphasize like the stepping point onto the balcony, because you always walk a slight step down for some reason. And I need to emphasize that on this top floor because you can't see it down here, because you know it is sort of in between the floors. The floors would go over the tape and under the tape, which I think is a genius thing to do, to make like the downside as well as the top side, but only once. Amazing. I have outdone myself. This looks it looks it looks very wonky from your perspective. I'll show you a bit closer up. you studied art, or do you learn all this yourself? Artistically, I have learned my painting skills by myself, but on a bit more logistical and technical level, I have learned how to fill in big spaces of paint and how to make it look as seamlessly as possible. Because again, I am working construction painter, so you know, this wall is something I could paint and make a tapestry or like paper mache type of pattern on it, and I could spackle the pattern away. I could paint the himling, as it's called in Norwegian, the inside roof, and I could paint. I mean, technically, I should be able to do the floors, but I don't want to do the floors. I don't want to work where people are stepping on it. Uh, I want to do the things you can like see and appreciate. And I was going to show you a bit closer up. These big panels, that is structurally the thing is your job male dominant? Completely. They are calling me woman. At least the Polish people who can't really say the R, and which is fun and fine, I guess. This is like the terrace thing, so it doesn't go all the way down, but it's a big and chunky. I can see it's not completely straight, so that is something to be fixed, but I have sort of still had the audacity of some sort of railings that I'm not quite sure how to do. And I like how the panels are smaller here rather than here, because this will be a bit more open and this part will be a bit more stuff in it. And the same as down here, I have the railing, but it goes a bit more down rather than up, because our perspective will be predominantly in the middle of right here. Then we see down on this and up on all of this, making a slight perspective kind of hard, or kind of ish tricky. But I also I want more stuff on the actual terrace, and so the like terrace floor would go on the tape here, so I don't have to paint that again, and we don't have to see that. And the like rest of the new terrace would go all the way up here, so we don't have to see that, we don't have to be bothered by it. And they are sort of opposite, just to create a bit dimension, so I don't have two doors here with not a lot in front of, and rather have more stuff here and more stuff here, and it's sort of toning itself down. And a Bob Ross bitmoji, emote, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I like to be compared to the masters. I don't understand anything, but it sounds interesting. Thank you. I'm mainly talking about the dynamic of the painting. You want, if you're going to have a lot of stuff here, it would be a lot of stuff right here, and it wouldn't transcend all the way. And so when we have a lot of stuff here and a lot of stuff here, it will go into this, and it will be less stuff here and less stuff here, but it will sort of create a dynamic and a flow in that sense. And since there will be stuff on the terrace, I have smaller panels here, which probably will just not show at all. Same as here, they probably just disappear into the night. And then I want things in the window as well, so they won't be that dark. But I want there to be different tones of light. I want this light to be a bit more blue, And then I want this like to be a bit more yellow, because on this one down here I want a lot of plants and a lot of luscious life. And then here I want it to be a bit more straighter in that sense. I want it to be like more grays and whites and blue and a bit more what IKEA calls a Scandinavian look. And what that also does is create a harmony of a sky and a ground with luscious green life as well. And it creates a sort of nice dynamic when it is just a building and it's just hinting about a nice horizon line and such. And now that I have explained that to the extent that I am capable of using words, I will probably zoom in just a little bit. So you can see it a bit better, but I think that was a bit much. But thinking noises. I mean, sort of, but not really at the same time. What? I think I should do. You explain it very well. Thank you. I have my way around words. I think it is, at least in a professional continuation, or like in a professional sort of sense, I have gotten that as a compliment countless times, at least all the times that it occurred. So thank you. I really appreciate it, and I do strive to make very simple things sound complicated but yet very specific, so I can talk more essentially. I want to make this terrace, and I want it to be this thick all the way around. I don't want it to extend itself, so I have to try not to do that, and I don't want it to be crooked. Fuck. It's sort of starting to become crooked, but hopefully I'll fix that somehow. I would have to make it go here on a bit downer side of what I just did, and make it go a bit more down here, because what was wrong is that it went a bit too far up there, and now it does look straighter. And you know, for constructional purposes it shouldn't be crooked, but I think like this, especially in the middle, it has a lump, so that is probably why my perspective is off. Also, my perspective is from the side. In